Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into P.T. Barnum's The Art of Money Getting.
Oh, yeah, this one should be good.
You may think, oh, P.T. Barnum, circuses, showmanship.
Right.
But trust me, it's a lot deeper than that.
Oh, for sure.
We're talking advice on building a successful life, not just a fat wallet.
I think people will be surprised, actually,
Yeah.
how relevant his advice still is today.
Right. Even though it was written, over a century ago?
Yeah, someone like that.
So we're going to pull out those timeless nuggets of wisdom,
Mm-hmm.
the stuff you can actually use.
Yeah, the actionable stuff.
Right, in your own life.
Totally.
So Barnum starts off by celebrating America.
Right?
He's all about America being this land of opportunity,
Mm.
wide open spaces, less competition.
Makes sense.
Kind of makes it sound like, just show up and you're going to strike it rich.
Well, and he was writing at a time when, there was a lot of truth to that.
Right.
America was booming.
But then he hits us with a dose of reality.
Yeah, he does.
He says, keeping money is harder than making it.
That's where so many of us stumble.
Right.
Like, we're doing okay, we're earning decent money,
Hmm.
but then we fall into these bad habits, and suddenly we're right back where we started.
It's like we're all channeling that Charles Dickens character,
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Micawber.
Macabre, always spending a little more than he earns.
Right. And Barnum warns that's a recipe for misery.
I think we can all relate to that feeling.
Yeah.
That paycheck to paycheck squeeze.
It's those little things,
The sneaky subscription services.
Oh, those things. A few dollars here, a few dollars there.
Draining your bank account.
Right. And those online shopping sprees.
Oh, so good in the moment.
Ah.
The regret later.
That's exactly what Barnum calls false economy.
Right.
He has this term, candle end pinchers.
Okay.
Those people, so focused on saving pennies, they miss the big picture.
Like clipping coupons all day, but then blowing it all on a new gadget.
Exactly. Remember that story he tells about the farmers?
Yeah, the farmers hoarding candles like they're gold.
Right.
But then they're spending lavishly on things they don't even need.
It's about balance, right?
Totally. Finding that balance between smart saving and smart spending.
Makes you think about your own candle,
It does, doesn't it?
What are we clinging to
Yeah.
while maybe missing out on something bigger?
Maybe it's that daily latte.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe, you're always buying the latest tech gadgets.
But can't afford a vacation.
Right.
It's about recognizing those patterns in our own lives.
Being mindful,
Yeah.
not sacrificing those long-term goals for that temporary hit of satisfaction.
And it's not just about that mindless spending, right?
Mm.
Barnum also warns us about this thing we've all heard of,
Oh, yeah?
trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Ugh, the Jones.
It's this age-old trap of comparing ourselves to others
That pressure.
and feeling like we need to spend beyond our means just to fit in.
It's one thing to admire your neighbor's new car, but it's another to feel like you have to have one too, just to keep up.
And Barnum uses these great examples.
Oh, yeah.
Like that guy who hires a fancy carriage
Oh, I remember that one.
just to deliver a simple herring to his house.
A herring.
Yeah.
Wait, I mean, who does that?
Or that woman who buys an expensive shawl.
Just to outshine her neighbor.
Right, like, come on.
But these stories, as funny as they are,
Yeah,
highlight a real problem.
yeah.
That pressure to impress others, even if it hurts us.
And it's even harder now, isn't it?
Oh,
With social media and everything.
social media constantly showing us these perfect lives.
Right, exotic vacations, designer clothes.
And it's easy to fall into that trap,
Yeah, thinking we need to keep up.
even if it means going into debt.
Oh, yeah, that's a slippery slope.
Maxing out those credit cards,
Oh.
taking out loans we can't afford.
All to project an image that's not even real.
And you know what else can mess up your financial success?
What's that?
Bad health.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Barnum dedicates a whole section to this.
Yeah, I was surprised by that, actually.
You wouldn't think it would be in a book about money.
Right, but it's like he's saying, look, you can't build wealth if you're not taking care of yourself.
It's an investment, he says.
Yeah.
And he doesn't just talk about it in general terms.
Mm-hmm.
He goes into specific habits to avoid, like tobacco use.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it?
And what's really fascinating
Mm-hmm.
is that he actually struggled with tobacco addiction himself.
Yeah, I know. He goes into all this detail about how it took over his senses,
Mm.
how he'd even choose tobacco over delicious fruit.
It's so relatable, though.
Right.
We all have those vices.
The things we struggle with.
But his point is, those things, especially if they affect our health,
Yeah.
they can hold us back in all areas of life.
So true.
You got to take care of yourself first.
Yeah.
That's the foundation.
Right.
So we've talked about avoiding bad habits.
Mm.
But what about choosing the right path?
Okay.
Barnum talks a lot about finding your vocation.
Okay, so not just any old job.
No, not just a paycheck.
Yeah.
He's talking about that career path that really fits you
The thing you're good at.
and that you enjoy.
It's so frustrating. How many people I know are stuck in jobs they hate?
Yeah, I hear that a lot.
They went to school for the wrong thing, or they took the first job they could get.
And now they're miserable.
Right.
And Barnum would say, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah, why do something you hate?
And he even uses himself as an example.
Oh, really?
He realized he wasn't cut out to be a mechanic.
Imagine that. No P.T. Barnum, the showman.
Right.
We might not have had his circus.
It makes you think,
Yeah.
what if we all found that thing we were meant to do?
Right. Not just successful.
But happy too.
Exactly. Can't forget about that part.
And, even with the perfect job,
Yeah.
things can still go wrong if you're in the wrong place.
Location, location, location.
It's not just real estate.
You're right.
It applies to business,
He
too.
tells this great story.
Yeah, the showman in London.
Right. Stuck in this terrible spot.
All those dusty wax figures.
Right. But the guy had talent, charisma.
But he wasn't reaching his full potential.
Yeah, just because he's in the wrong environment.
Sometimes you got to change the scenery.
So what happened to him?
He took Barnum's advice
Okay.
and moved to America.
Oh.
He thrived. Found a place where his talents were appreciated.
Happy endings.
But
Oh.
not all of Barnum's advice is so lighthearted.
Oh, no. What else is there?
He gets pretty serious about debt.
Debt. Yeah, that's a heavy one.
He calls it the cankerworm of prosperity.
Oof. That's a strong image.
And he's not kidding. It can really eat away at you.
Your finances and your peace of mind.
Going into debt for anything other than land, he says.
Okay.
Or maybe marriage, according to Henry Ward Beecher.
Oh, well, there you go.
It traps you in this cycle of working
Huh.
just to pay off the past.
Like you're always chasing your tail.
Never really getting ahead.
And it's not just the financial burden, is it?
No, it's emotional too.
Yeah. Right. It can affect your self-esteem.
Make you feel like you're always behind.
It's that temptation.
Yeah, to buy things on credit.
Telling yourself, I'll pay it off later.
But later always comes.
And it's never as easy as you think.
The interest piles up.
Yeah.
It's a vicious cycle.
So, no quick fixes.
Not really.
But he does stress living within your means.
Yeah, and saving a habit
If in small amounts
consistently.
can add up over time.
It's that slow and steady wins the race approach.
Right.
And that brings us to another big piece of advice.
Okay, what's that?
Perseverance.
You could be great at making money,
Yeah.
avoiding debt,
Absolutely.
but without perseverance.
You're not going to get very far.
This is at the heart of his message, isn't it?
It is.
Success takes effort, a refusal to give up.
He uses this great analogy.
Yeah, I love that one.
Two generals facing an enemy attack.
Right.
The hesitant one fails.
But the one with
But
perseverance.
Charges forward, inspires his troops.
Powerful image.
It's about believing in yourself, even when doubts creep in.
Easier said than done, right?
Sometimes.
We all face those challenges.
And that's where Barnum's advice comes in.
So how do we do it?
He has this great quote, whatever you do, do it with all your might.
It's about giving it your all.
Every task, big or small.
Like that old saying, whatever is worth doing well.
Exactly.
You can tell the difference
Oh, absolutely.
between a half-hearted effort and a real effort.
The results speak for themselves.
But doing things well also means understanding your business.
Inside and out.
Barnum encourages us to be like Cuvier,
Cuvier.
the naturalist.
Oh, yeah, I remember him.
The guy who could identify any animal from just a single bone.
He was that good.
There's this great story
Oh, tell me.
about how his students tried to trick him.
Oh, I love this story.
They dressed a classmate up in a cow skin.
No way.
Yeah, and hid him under Cuvier's table.
Trying to fool the master.
But Cuvier knew right away.
He wasn't fooled
He could tell just by looking at the structure.
that it wasn't a real cow.
It's a hilarious story.
It is.
But it makes a point, right?
What is it?
You got to become a master at your craft.
Whatever that may be.
Running a company, working as a freelancer.
Deep knowledge is key.
It's not just knowing the basics.
It's about those nuances.
the details that set you apart.
And that comes from experience.
Right. Being involved, constantly learning.
So no more delegating everything then.
Well, I mean,
You can delegate,
yeah,
but you got to understand the core of your business.
makes sense.
So we've talked about hard work, perseverance, expertise.
What else is there?
Well, being a showman himself,
Mhm.
Barnum has some interesting things to say about advertising.
You'd think he'd be all about those flashy promotions.
Right, over-the-top claims.
Come one, come all, see the greatest show on earth.
But actually, he emphasizes that advertising is only as good as what you're selling.
Oh, that makes sense.
It's pointless to advertise something shoddy.
You gotta have the goods.
Right.
It's like he's predicting the age of online reviews.
Totally.
People can see through empty hype.
They want the real deal.
So it's not just about shouting your message.
It's about having something worth shouting about.
Exactly.
You need a solid product, a great service.
And then you advertise to tell people about it.
Exactly.
Now, we can't talk about P.T. Barnum
Yeah.
without mentioning risk-taking.
He was known for it.
Bold ventures, pushing boundaries.
But was he always so fearless?
That's a great question.
And one we'll dive into in the next part of our deep dive.
Stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to our deep dive into P.T. Barnum's The Art of Money Getting. We've talked about so much already, haven't we? Those sneaky, false economies,
Yeah.
avoiding those bad spending habits,
Yeah.
and of course, the age-old struggle of keeping up with the Joneses.
Ugh, the Joneses, right.
It's even harder now with social media.
Oh, for sure. Constantly bombarded with those perfect lives.
But Barnum reminds us to focus on our own path. Yeah, build a life that's authentic to you.
And remember what we were talking about before the break?
Oh, about P.T. Barnum and risk-taking.
Yeah, was he always so fearless?
You'd think so, right? With all those grand ventures.
Pushing boundaries, creating spectacles.
But Barnum was actually much more calculated.
Oh, really?
Yeah, one of his key principles was to be cautious and bold.
That sounds kind of contradictory.
It might seem that way.
How can you be both cautious and bold at the same time?
Well, it's about finding that sweet spot
Okay.
between careful planning
Mm-hmm.
and courageous action.
So you do your research.
Absolutely, due diligence is key.
Understand the risks, the potential rewards.
But then, once you've done your homework,
Yeah.
don't let fear hold you back.
Be bold.
Exactly. Pursue your vision.
So it's not just about throwing caution to the wind.
No, blind faith won't get you very far.
It's about making informed decisions.
Yes, calculated risks.
Now, Barnum also had some advice about, well, who you do business with.
Oh yeah, like what's...
He said, never have anything to do with an unlucky man or place.
That sounds a bit superstitious, doesn't it?
Yeah, a little bit.
Like, are we talking lucky rabbit's feet here?
Right. Avoiding black cats.
But Barnum was actually being very practical.
Okay, how so?
He believed that if someone consistently failed,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't just bad luck,
There was a reason.
right? Maybe a flaw in their character or their approach.
Something deeper.
Exactly. Something that might not be obvious at first glance.
So do your research.
Yeah, background checks.
Look beyond those first impressions.
Don't let yourself be fooled.
And don't get caught up in someone else's bad luck cycle.
Exactly. Surround yourself with winners.
People who overcome challenges achieve success.
Their energy is contagious,
It's like picking your teammates.
Uh-huh.
You want people who are going to lift you up.
not drag you down.
So speaking of achieving goals,
Yeah,
I'm guessing Barnum wasn't a big believer in luck.
you're right. He wasn't about leaving things to chance.
More like you make your own luck.
He believed that success came from dedication.
Hard work, preparation, smart choices.
Like causes produce like effects, he said.
Though no lottery tickets for P.T. Barnum.
He'd probably say that's a passive approach.
Right. Relying on luck instead of action.
He was all about creating your own opportunities.
Taking control.
And that leads us to another piece of advice.
Okay, what's that?
Don't scatter your powers.
What does that even mean?
It's about focus,
Okay.
not spreading yourself too thin.
So many distractions these days.
Oh yeah, side hustles, new projects.
You can't do it all.
Right, you got to prioritize.
Choose your battles.
Focus on the things that matter most.
It's that old saying, jack of all trades, master of none.
Barnum would probably agree.
Focus your energy, hone your skills, become an expert.
And this applies to everyone.
Not just entrepreneurs.
Writers, musicians, anyone with a goal
Dedicating focused effort.
will get you better results than dabbling in a million things.
It's tempting though, isn't it?
Oh, I know.
To try a little bit of everything.
But sometimes you got to stay the course.
See a project through.
And that brings us to something else Barnum emphasized.
What's that?
Being systematic.
Okay.
Having a clear plan, a structured approach.
He sounds like a productivity guru.
Ahead of his time.
He was all about organization.
Time and place for everything, getting things done promptly.
But wasn't he also a showman?
He was.
Creativity, improvisation, all that.
Yeah. but he understood the importance of a solid foundation,
Okay, so structure and flexibility,
finding that balance.
like having a roadmap.
Yes, but with room for detours.
Okay, so here's a piece of advice that might sound a little old-fashioned.
What's that?
Read the newspapers,
Now, in his time, newspapers were everything,
the main source of information
and Barnum believed it was crucial to stay informed.
for business and for life.
And even though we don't all read physical newspapers anymore,
Yeah, we have the internet now.
the principle still applies.
Stay aware of what's happening.
In your industry, in the world,
It can impact your goals.
be discerning about your sources.
Don't just passively scroll through social media.
Find reliable news outlets. Do your research.
Barnum also warned against getting caught up in what he called outside operations.
What did he mean by that?
I think he was talking about those distractions.
Shiny objects, ventures outside your area of expertise.
The get-rich-quick schemes, the side hustles that lead you astray.
It's easy to get tempted.
Oh yeah, especially for entrepreneurs.
Always new opportunities popping up.
But sometimes the best path is the one you're already on.
Focus on your strengths. Build on your expertise.
Don't spread yourself too thin.
Now, here's a piece of financial advice that's still so relevant today.
What's that?
Be careful about endorsing loans without proper security.
Okay, so like co-signing loans.
Exactly, even for family and friends.
I know, but Barnum was adamant about this.
I know, but Barnum was adamant about this.
He understood that emotions can cloud judgment,
Protect yourself financially, he said.
even when it comes to people you care about.
He tells this story
Oh yeah.
about a man who kept endorsing notes for a friend, thinking it was a safe bet because the friend was wealthy.
What?
The friend lost everything.
Oh no.
Bad investments, speculation.
Then the endorser was left with nothing.
It's a cautionary tale.
Even trustworthy people can make bad decisions.
You gotta protect yourself.
So set those boundaries.
Even with loved ones.
You can be supportive without putting your own finances at risk.
Have those tough conversations up front.
Be clear about the risks,
It's better to have an awkward conversation now.
than to face financial ruin later.
Barnum's advice is so timeless.
It really is.
He had a way of making things so clear,
Practical, actionable,
and he wasn't afraid to share his own experiences
the good and the bad.
to illustrate his points.
We've covered so much already.
But there's still more to explore.
In the final part of our deep dive,
We'll delve into Barnum's thoughts on education, personal growth.
and what it truly means to live a successful life.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're wrapping up our exploration of P.T. Barnum's The Art of Money Getting. We've talked about finding your calling, avoiding those debt traps, and, of course, the importance of perseverance.
And we've delved into his thoughts on smart advertising, taking calculated risks, and even the importance of choosing the right people to work with.
But Barnum's wisdom goes beyond just making money, doesn't it?
It does. It really does.
He had a lot to say about building a fulfilling life, and that's what we'll focus on in this final part.
Sounds good.
So one thing that really stands out in his writing is the emphasis on education.
Oh, absolutely. He was a big believer in continuous learning.
He even said every man should make sure his children learn a useful trade or profession.
He was writing at a time when, fortunes could change pretty quickly.
Right.
Having a practical skill to fall back on.
Yeah, like a safety net.
Exactly. It can make all the difference.
It's like diversifying your portfolio, but for your life skills.
That's a great way to put it. The more you know, the more adaptable you are.
And he wasn't just talking about formal education either.
Oh, right. What else?
Learning from experience, observing others,
Hmm.
constantly seeking out new information and ideas.
He was a lifelong learner himself,
He was always curious.
which actually kind of ties into his advice to be not too visionary.
Now that might seem a bit contradictory coming from him.
Right, Mr. Grand Visions and Spectacles himself.
But I think what he meant was don't get so caught up in unrealistic expectations
Okay, yeah.
or constantly chasing the next big thing
Mhm.
that you miss out on the present.
Don't let those dreams distract you from what's right in front of you.
Exactly. It's about balance,
Right.
having optimism and ambition
But also being practical.
and willing
Yeah.
to put in the work.
Actions speak louder than words, as they say.
That's the essence of his philosophy, really.
Yeah, it's not about getting rich quick.
No magic formula
It's about good habits, smart choices,
and consistent effort,
building a life of substance.
financially and personal.
It's a message that still resonates today, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. In this world of instant gratification, shortcuts,
Yeah.
Barnum's emphasis on hard work, perseverance, integrity.
It's refreshing, actually.
It reminds us what really
It's
matters.
about the journey, not just the destination.
Well said. So as we wrap up our deep dive into P.T. Barnum's The Art of Money Getting,
Yeah.
what's the one thing you hope listeners take away?
I think Barnum's core message is about taking ownership of your life, discovering your calling, working diligently, creating something meaningful, and always striving to be your best self. His book is full of practical wisdom that we can all apply today. So, as you go about your week, I encourage you to think about which of Barnum's principles resonated with you most. How can you apply his insights to your own life? That's it for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.